Well, hey everybody, John Rethlin here, and this is a real lost rant about Vince McMahon's desperation to maintain a stranglehold on the wrestling industry that is slipping out of his grasp. Now, I want to make it clear that WWE is still the biggest game in town financially. They're offering stupid money to so many people, various talents and everything. They have a huge roster. They got big revenue streams coming from the USA Network TV deal for Raw. The Fox deal for SmackDown is going to be coming in, kicking in October. And that's going to tie into some stuff I'm going to be talking about here because I am going to reference the Heyman Bischoff stuff here later in this video. The Saudi Arabia deal, even though I don't agree with it and everything, I think it's a stupid idea. And also the wrestlers that don't want to go shouldn't have to be fucking punished because they don't want to go to a country that's run by a fucking tyrant. They should not be punished for that, but Vince McMahon will because he's a goddamn idiot. But anyway, I digress. It is stupid money. WWE wants to take it. Okay. Again, the wrestlers just should not be able to go if they don't want to. So, they also have massive revenue streams set up through advertising, through, merchandising deals, through sponsorships and that kind of stuff. The network. A whole bunch of other stuff. So that's even offsetting the fact that NXT keeps losing money every single year. And I can't imagine NXT UK is exactly making a ton of money because they're allocating a whole bunch of funds to people where, yes, they're drawing, some crowds to their TV tapings, but they're having to tape them in month or 2 month blocks. Then spoilers get out. Not as many people watch them. I don't know what the network, views are for NXT and NXT UK, but I don't know if they're as high as they used to be. And 205 Live, nothing against 205 Live, but they're not exactly doing all that well either. I would take 205 Live and absorb it in NXT. I've said that before. But my point is they have so many people on Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, NXT, NXT UK, people in the Performance Center. People are just sitting on the sidelines. I don't mean people that are injured, but people are just sitting on the sidelines or working house shows here and there, or people that are just writing out their contracts. Luke Harper, a few others. Revival, even though they're on TV, they're just writing out their contracts. Same with Gallows and Anderson. A whole bunch of people are writing out their contracts. You know why? Because WWE is an overcrowded lifeboat. And at this point, it's about to capsize. And money-wise, it's still going to be absolutely insane. If you think I'm a WWE hater, let me just tell you, I've watched it since 1985 through the good times, the great times, the bad times, the terrible times, and even 2019. And even though I've done it through gritted teeth sometime, I took an oath, I watch wrestling so you don't have to. 2019 has some good stuff. They've had some highs, but they've also had a lot of lows. And even NXT has kind of plateaued, even though it's had some good stuff. Not everything is doom and gloom. Not everything is bullshit. Not everything is absolutely terrible. But besides financially, has WWE done anything really creatively all that good this year? Sure, Kofi is champion, and that's great. Kofi has also not been in the main event of really any pay-per-view that he's had. It's AJ Styles' WWE title run all over again. Even though Kofi, don't get me wrong, Kofi being champion, I'm actually very happy for him. AJ, I was happy for him, but it's a big deal with Kofi. Seth Rollins feels like an afterthought as champion, and he's, of course, going after Will Ospreay on Twitter, being a corporate kiss-ass, and doing all this stuff, but it is what it is. Neither Rollins nor Ospreay exactly have the best past either. I referenced that in a hashtag Ask for Honesty video, so I'm not going to dive into it here. They also have... They just have a bunch of stuff that they're doing. Like Becky Lynch, she's champion, but she's been feuding with Lacey Evans for a while. Nothing against Lacey Evans. But the whole point is they're champions, their main champions. Bayley, back here, feuding with Alexa needlessly. There's been some good stuff this year. There's been some good women's matches. There's been some good men's matches. There's been some good matches on pay-per-view. But by and large, the creative direction has fucking... It's been rolling downhill, gaining traction, gaining mass as a snowball, and it's about to hit Vince McMahon and everybody, all the executives and everybody at the bottom. And when it does, the bottom may fall out. The bottom's already fell out on the ratings. The ratings are in the fucking toilet. Now, granted, they're running bigger arenas than they did back in the New Generation era, which I loved. And I mean, yes, I got this shirt. Actually, my sister looked at the logo on on the internet, probably on Google, and painted it herself. That's why I treasure this shirt. And also, it's very fond memories and everything. And my sister's a talented artist, so once again, I'm going to do that. Yes, she painted this. So anyway, I have watched WWE for years and years and years. I watched WCW during the Monday Night Wars, and even before that. I've seen old AWA. I saw the old AWA, like, even when I was a kid. I mean, it wasn't all that great, but it was wrestling. Same with Jim Crockett Promotions. Same with World Class Championship Wrestling. And when ECW came along, I liked some of it. I didn't like a lot of it. I've made my opinions on ECW known. But Heyman did a whole lot of good creatively with a lot of people. And again, I'll touch on that here in a little bit. But I'm giving the overlay of the finances basically to give you the point that WWE, outside of the finances, is late WCW creatively. They have all these talents, this incredible roster full of people that just want to contribute, want to do good things. Not everybody can be on top all the goddamn time. Some people that were main eventers here, main eventers in Ring of Honor, are going to be like, lower on the card here. Some will even be down there. Some in Impact that were main eventers will be lower on the card here. That's fine. But if you're not going to even fucking utilize people, why do you have them? That is what I don't fucking get. It is taking the WCW motto that WWE railed against for years. Have everybody under contract, put the others out of business. But the problem is that added so much needless debt and needless, financial expense to WCW that when things went south, even when the ratings were good, even when the crowds were good, they were doomed to fail. Yes, they didn't have the revenue streams and that kind of stuff, even though their pay-per-views and their merch was eventually getting better and that kind of stuff. They weren't set up, and I would recommend checking out the Death of WCW book and various others from people that were actually in WCW. But even as a fan, I could tell looking at it, yes, the AOL Time Warner corporate merger did a whole bunch of damage to it, and it was never going to work. And once again, I do want to make it clear, because people are going to say, oh, well, then they brought in Vince Russo. Vince Russo could have had, the best goddamn ideas in the world. WCW was not going to let it succeed. Yeah, I mean, Vince Russo put a whole lot of fucking bullshit there. The Oklahoma character, which he has apologized for to JR, so I give him credit for that. Ed Ferrara, dumb fat fuck, can piss off for all I care. But then Judy Bagwell on the forklift, all this kind of stuff. And he did, there was some good. Using young talent was not necessarily a problem. The whole idea of using new blood. You had the New Blood versus the Millionaires Club, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I think that's where we're going to go here. We're going to go with the old guard versus the new guard. And WWE is going to repeat what WCW did, because those who don't learn from history are doomed to fucking repeat it. And I fear that is going to be the tagline for the video. And that's also going to be the tagline for WWE. Am I saying that WWE is going to go out of business? No. If the steroid trial didn't do it, if, the whole thing about, say, Pillman's death didn't do it, I mean, that's maybe on a bit of a, no disrespect to Pillman's death, but the steroid trial, Pillman's death, that kind of stuff, all the hits that Vince McMahon has taken, doing the show right after 9/11, which, Stephanie's comments are about the only tasteless thing from that. The Benoit tragedy in particular. Eddie's death, but especially the Benoit tragedy. If those kind of hits will not take down WWE, nothing will. Now, I'm not saying that WWE shouldn't be held accountable with mainly Vince McMahon, because Vince McMahon is the ultimate end-all, be-all when it comes to this stuff. But the problem is the talents have suffered so much under his reign, besides financially. They have suffered so much because so many people, they could contribute so much more, are not being able to. They aren't able to, and others are looking to go elsewhere. Even if they aren't going to make as much money as they make in WWE, some that were in New Japan, like Allison Anderson, I guarantee you that maybe besides the money, they probably regret leaving New Japan. Now, who knows if they would have been used all that well in the 3 years that they were, 3 years they've been gone, 3+ years they've been gone. Who knows? But examples of people that have left the WWE bubble, they're doing pretty well. Juice Robinson. He's doing pretty well. He left NXT. I'm going off on a tangent here before I get to the whole Bischoff Heyman thing, because I kind of am wrapping it up here on this. But Juice Robinson, and I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he has definitely improved in New Japan. And he earned their respect. John Moxley. Okay, you can have your opinions on John Moxley all you goddamn well want, but the guy looks fucking motivated out there. He looks absolutely motivated. Looked when he showed up at AEW's Double or Nothing, as opposed to anybody else's Double or Nothing. and, Cody and various others. And I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody. But there are many people that are looking to leave the WWE bubble because even if, whether AEW succeeds or not, I don't know. There's no way of knowing. Double or Nothing was a pretty good success, all things considered. They did sell out All Out. At least they're selling out their big shows. And they're going to focus more apparently on TV and less on house shows, which I think is smart. Build up your fan base and everything, and then run the occasional house show and everything. That's a pretty good idea and a pretty good business model. Not everything is exactly, a bed of roses with AEW. I think they have some issues. I think they need to present a product that is a little more, that is different, but also a little more serious. And sometimes using the comedy and everything could be hit and miss. Comedy is all subjective. There were things I didn't like about Double or Nothing. There were a lot of things I did like about it because it was different and it felt fresh and everything. And if people did like it or people didn't like it, that's fine. I want to also make it clear I'm sick of the pissing contests between WWE and AEW fans. Let's let both companies want to succeed. Okay? Really. That's what I want. That's what everybody wants. That's what and I hate to use this term, I fucking hate to use it. That's what every real wrestling fan should want. For both companies to succeed and to do well. Okay? So now let's get to the whole thing of why I think that WWE is the new WCW. Because again, I went over the finances and that kind of stuff, and you could look over the the quarterly reports and that kind of stuff. Since sort of publicly traded company, you have to look over that stuff. Things are up and down, that kind of stuff. I could get into that, and it could be a 2-hour long video if I really, really wanted to do that. But I'm not going to get into the analytics. They're going to make stupid money, and they're going to make stupid money for a number of years. Other wrestling companies, New Japan reported some good profits recently. That's great. If wrestling will not be where it was in the territory days because there's more ways to watch wrestling now than there were back in the territory days. Yeah, you had to watch on closed circuit and this kind of stuff, especially once it got to the 70s. And they might even done closed circuit stuff in the 60s. I mean, I don't know. We would need a little more. I would need a little more history stuff with that. But for the big companies, you had AWA, you had WWE, WCCW, Jim Crockett Promotions, Florida Championship Wrestling. You had stuff in Canada. You had Mid-South, Memphis. There were a bunch of territories were making a lot of money. You had WWA over out in San Francisco, and LA. I think it was just San Francisco though, where Ray Stevens was pretty goddamn popular, and so was Pedro Morales. But the whole point is in territory days, yes, you could make good steady money for a number of years and everything, but everything eventually evolves. Cable TV came along, people had more access to watch wrestling in their homes. So yes, the live event business died down a bit, but now it's come back up, especially with the rise of the indies and stuff like that. And that's another thing that Vince is trying to quell. Like the whole thing with Evolve running, them running the 10th anniversary of Evolve, which just happens to take place on the same day as AEW's Fight for the Fallen, which was already well established as happening on that particular day. I want to say it's July 13th. I think it is. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, people could say, oh, well, Vince McMahon's trying to stick it to AEW. Hey, we want competition. Personally, I would liken it to how it's just a coincidence like WWE, Vince McMahon firing Punk on his wedding day. Coincidence. But whatever. Competition is healthy. It is healthy. And we want it. We need to be happy to have it. Now, looking at what WWE is doing, you look at all the roster and everything and all the bullshit that they're doing. And a lot of the stuff goes back to the 24/7 title. A lot of people like the 24/7 title, and that is fine. I totally understand if you guys like the 24/7 title. I don't. I have made my opinions known on that. I give everybody credit for doing the best they can, but you're taking so many great talents and throwing them into a comedy skit that's just going to devalue them. Oh, so Vince is like, well, they won't be valued, and then they'll sign with me, and it's such good shit. And that's basically what he's saying. I want to also make it clear that comedy does belong in wrestling because wrestling inherently is stupid and ridiculous when done right. Wrestling can be serious and stupid and ridiculous, but still be entertaining and still draw people in and draw money. And unfortunately, WWE is having some difficulty doing that, or at least getting people to tune out to their, come out for their live shows. Stomping Grounds, which of course is where WWE talents kicked ass and took names, was not that well sold. Apparently like 6,000 people in the Tacoma Dome. To give you an idea, even if the stage blocked off 3,000 to 4,000 people, the whole arena, even though a little bit bigger, it could be a stadium, 23,000 people. You take out 3,000 to 4,000, that's still 19,000 to 20,000 seats, for the staging and all that stuff and the obstructive views. 6,000 people, and only about 4,500 or 5,000 paid, if the rumors are to be believed. Even if it went up to 8,000, that's still only half full. That's not good. That's the first pay-per-view they've run in Washington in 8+ years. The last one was Over the Limit 2011. I know, I was there. And then Raw at the Angel of the Winds Arena in Everett. 10,000 seat arena, 3,500 people. The Oregon one, I believe, is at the home of the Portland Trail Blazers. I don't remember the name of the arena right now, but it was like just under 20,000 seats. Even obstructive views, take it down to 16,000. Okay? Take it down to 16. 2,000 people. Maybe 3,000. That's not good. And that's just a few. If I'm going to hammer on Impact for not being able to draw a whole lot of crowds over the years and everything and this kind of stuff, and running in small dinky arenas, or, running like their tapings and like, something that looks like a shoebox, and whatever, it works with them, they get some hot crowds, I'm not faulting. I'm just saying, if I'm going to hammer on Impact for what they did for years and years and years, not drawing big crowds, like for Bound for Glory 2013, where it was like, I want to say it was like it might have been a 12,000 seat arena, and I think it was like 4,000 people that they had there. That's not good. If I'm going to hammer on that, and I'm going to hammer on other companies, Ring of Honor for not drawing in Kent, Washington, or not drawing a whole bunch of stuff. I guess they're best in the world. Pay-per-view that is happening, I believe, today. If I recall correctly, I'm probably not going to be buying it. That has still not sold a whole bunch. At least as of a few days ago, still had massive amounts of seats sold. Contrarily, you have New Japan that hasn't sold out of their G1 special in Dallas, but they're selling quite a few tickets. And they're doing pretty damn well for running a U.S. show. Wrestling is hit and miss depending on the market. Not every market is going to love every single brand. And that's just how it is. Going back to having certain companies in certain parts of the region wouldn't be a bad thing, but it would also be going backwards. So I'm going to finish that whole thing off with the finances right there by just saying the WWE is making their stupid money, but creatively they are not doing all that well. So creatively, all the people that they have running around doing a whole bunch of bullshit, or people they have not doing anything, a lot of their women aren't doing much of anything because every female champion is feuding with the same person. And Lacey Evans, don't get me wrong, is leagues ahead of Alexa Bliss. Leagues ahead of her. Probably shouldn't have done that hand motion. But the whole point is she's leagues ahead of her, even though Lacey Evans still has a ways to go. You can see the improvement there. Alexa Bliss has been wrestling for a number of years and has not, and she's regressed. And injuries, all that stuff and everything. But the whole point is long-term feuds don't matter, or long-term feuds won't feel long if you don't go if you don't, make them boring. And unfortunately, if you book them wrong, you're going to make them boring, even if the performers are good. And same with the men, same with so many others. So many of the women aren't being used all that goddamn well, and it's humiliating. NXT, they have a rotating cast of people that they use here and there, but there are some that I totally forget are part of the company, because they only have an hour of television. I am not saying that NXT should go to 2 hours, but maybe 90 minutes and absorb 205 Live into them, because they only run like two matches a show anyway, so why the fuck not? It would get them in front of a hot crowd. Just fucking do that. There are so many ways to fix all this stuff, and no, it can't be done overnight, but Vince McMahon has the stake in the heart of the fans, and he's hammering down on it. It's like, when Homer did that to Mr. Burns in that one episode of The Simpsons, the Treehouse of Horror stuff. It is getting to the point where fans are tuning out in droves. The ratings are hitting record lows. Even when the ratings rise up, oh, wow, congratulations. You gained like 1/10 of a point, or you gained like 100,000 more viewers, and then you didn't give them a reason to tune back in. They're at a standstill creatively. Everybody is doing the same goddamn stuff. None of the shows feel unique. And especially the women. The women, it's kind of like with the cruiserweights. I mean, and the cruiserweights in WCW. You have all these women that you have brought in that you could be using better. Utilize your women. I'm not saying use them in like 6 woman or 8 woman tags, but use them, utilize them, and make yourself stand out from other companies. Sure, Shine, Shimmer, Stardom, AEW's got a pretty good women's division. Ring of Honor has some talented women. They also have Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. But, they have some talented women there. But they can't hold on to enough of them. Kelly Klein and a few others are pretty good. But there are enough talented women where if you use them in WWE and use them properly, hey, we're setting the trend and we're making it all about this women's revolution. This women's revolution has gone backwards. And that's not a fault of the women, that's a fault of creative. Vince has given up on them since Ronda Rousey took over. Or took some time off, that is. Because once she left, because she had to go cut off her hair and wash Sasha's feet with it, I will not let that go, ever. She has basically taken a whole lot of steam with them, or with it. And that's really, really sad, because there are so many other talented women that could be used a whole lot better, and they're not being. The women could be what the cruiserweights were to WCW. The women for WWE could be what the cruiserweights were for WCW, and Vince is not allowing that, and that's a shame. Even though the women have been able to have flashes of brilliance and have some good stuff, a lot of times they're just relegated backstage segments that go fucking nowhere. Or they're using the wrong women, or using the same women over and over and over. They can't be doing that. But now, all this stuff, because you're looking at what WCW did. They had a great tag team division. Their cruiserweight division was hit and miss, even though there was still some good talents, but they couldn't get the old guys out of the way. That's kind of the problem with WWE. They got the wild card rule that's pretty much nullifying everybody. Nobody knows who's on Raw or SmackDown. This kind of stuff. So what's Vince McMahon going to do? Is he going to realize that it's such good shit, except it's not, and he's going to bring in some new blood? Is he going to bring in new people, new direction, get some stuff, and get the ratings back up, and get some people that have their finger on the pulse of the fans? Is he going to do that? People that have some experience, that have all this stuff. Is he fucking bollocks? Because guess what he did? And this is the crux of the whole thing. This will take up the last number of minutes here. But you get, from an SI article by Justin Barrasso. This is about, the news broke yesterday that Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff are being named executive creative directors, or creative executive directors, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Heyman is going to be in charge of Raw. Okay, Raw is more character driven. I guess I sort of understand that. Bischoff is going to be in charge of SmackDown, and mainly he's also going to work with directly with the executives from Fox. Both these guys will not be in on-air authority roles, apparently, so that is reportedly what the deal is. None of these guys aren't going to be in these roles yet, but they're going to be starting soon. Now, I don't know exactly what this is going to entail. Maybe it'll entail a draft, and everybody will actually be centered on certain shows. And maybe you could just take 205 Live and put it on SmackDown, since you tape it after SmackDown anyway. Because the rumors are they want to make a third hour of SmackDown. You want to do that, you might as well include 205 Live. They might even put NXT on Fox. Who the fuck knows? But, okay. You could have brought in a whole bunch of people that were creatively new, that knew the business but were young enough they could have their finger on the pulse of the audience and everything. Because there are older fans like me, but you want to draw in, kids and teens and that kind of stuff, and young adults. You want to draw in a whole bunch of people. So what are you going to do? The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go backwards, and that's what WWE is doing. Now, I respect what Heyman did in ECW, and and even in WCW, even with Dangerous Alliance, and when he was with the Samoan SWAT team, and even in the AWA when he was managing the original Midnight Express, Randy Rose and Loverboy Dennis Condrey. He could do some good stuff as a manager and as, a creative, as somebody that was creative, like, as far as working with talents. He got a lot out of a little. He got the Sandman over. The Sandman, they couldn't fucking wrestle his way out of a goddamn paper bag. Okay, he did that. He got Sabu, the homophobic moron that he is, but, hey, he could do a whole bunch of stupid shit and cut his body up to shit, and we're supposed to feel bad for him. I don't. He did that to himself. Just saying. But Heyman got a lot creatively out of a lot of people in ECW. And even in WWE, when he was, when he was head of SmackDown, and SmackDown was doing well, especially when he was, the head writer and doing well creatively. Great. Okay, they were doing good. That was in 2002, 2003. It is 2019. We don't need to be looking back at every single motherfucking person that did something way back when. Am I saying the old people need to be forgotten? Absolutely fucking not. But don't tell me that this is a good idea when there are other people that they could bring in that probably have younger minds, maybe some more energy, and maybe won't just be seen as yes men to Vince. And yes, I know that Heyman challenged Vince a whole lot, but now Heyman seems like he's like mellowed out a whole bunch, and that he's not the same like boisterous guy that he used to be, even though he has plenty of energy and everything, and he still has his own business ventures and all that. So he's going to be in charge of creative, and he's going to be in a backstage role. He'll probably also still be Brock Lesnar's advocate. But apparently part of the reason they decided to do that Bischoff and Heyman were hired, Heyman specifically, is, that way Lesnar might stick around after his contract expires next year. Okay, whatever. And then Ronda Rousey may come back. I mean, Ronda Rousey will probably come back at some point. I don't know when. I don't really care, because she did just about everything she could. But Heyman is good creatively. And Bischoff, okay, bit of an odd move, because Bischoff, you could argue, has not really been... Besides the NWO that he fell into, because that was something from New Japan, and a few other things, cruiserweights and a few other things that he did that were pretty creative, that he at least had a hand in, he's never been known as necessarily being a creative guy. Now, is he a guy that doesn't know wrestling? I'm not saying he doesn't know wrestling somewhat. But you take him away from Turner, he was a great on-air authority figure in WWE, but his run in TNA... however little or much control he had, I mean, I don't know how much he had, only he would know that. That run was not very good at all. There was a whole lot of bullshit that happened, and whether it's his fault or not, I blame Dixie more than anything, because Dixie was the one in charge of the company, and Dixie made Jim Crockett Jr. look like less of a deer in the headlights, which is saying something. I just don't get why we're going with two guys whose best years are way, way behind them. I mean, way behind them. I mean, so far behind them that I was probably about 23, when their best years were behind them. Actually, no, I take that back. Their best years were in like 1999. Because even by the time ECW got on TNT and stuff like that, Heyman's best years were behind him because he was burned out, and who could blame him? He'd been running the company for a while. Bischoff had been helping run WCW for a while, and then that didn't work. And then to come back and all that and everything. I don't want to sound like I'm dumping on the guys. However I feel about them as people, I get why Vince would want to bring them in, but it's also desperation, because it's like, oh wait, these guys did all this stuff, against me and then for me for years and years. Let me bring them back. I don't think either of these guys would have done that well in ECW or in not ECW, AEW. Let me make that clear. I would have hammered on AEW for hiring them too, because yes, you need to hire people with creative minds, but you also need to hire fresh talent, and you need to rotate people in and out. I'm not saying the old guys need to be forgotten about, but this highlights a big problem with what's going on with Vince, is that he's relying on the people from the past instead of recognizing the presence or the presence of the present, and it's kind of what cost him in 1993. Remember, he went back to Hogan at WrestleMania 9. That damaged the company for a year plus. When he finally went back to Bret, it was great, but the hype wasn't quite there, even though people love Bret. I mean, I love Bret. Bret's my favorite superstar of all time. But Vince has never exactly been a very, very smart person when it comes to realizing that there are other wrestling companies out there that, yes, not letting as many people go as they want makes business sense. Why would you let go of something that you see value in? But with Bischoff, it just seems like an odd move, because really, besides working with the execs, what purpose does he serve? Creative? I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't see it. There are other creative minds they could use. They have a giant creative team. They have a bunch of people working in NXT. I don't know if 205 Live has a creative team, but they have road agents. They have other people. You have all these veterans. Use them. And I'm talking people like Eric Young, Bobby Roode, AJ Styles. And I mentioned a lot of people from Impact, but you got a bunch of other people. EC3, even though he's younger than those guys, you could still use him. Use his mind and stuff like that. There's plenty of people that you could use with creative minds and stuff like that and other minds that you could use that don't rely on two guys that are in their 50s, almost in their 60s, and just putting it back to the Monday Night Wars like the Monday Night Wars never fucking left. And it's goddamn humiliating. Because we need to move past that, because, again, those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And I just don't like it. I just don't. Am I willing to give it a chance? Sure, but you know what? The whole thing about this is, and the crux of this, and going from all the finances and all the stuff and everything, and recounting a little bit of the history and mentioning Heyman and Bischoff, and everybody's all happy, they're still going to report to Vince, and Vince has final say. If Vince has final say, nothing is going to change. Am I saying that he won't listen to other people? Oh, he'll listen, and then he'll twist the ideas to support his insane beliefs. And it sounds like I'm pissing on WWE a whole bunch. I want it to succeed. And I mean live crowds and everything. I want WWE to build back their brand, especially live crowd-wise. I want them to do 10,000 people every single Raw and every single SmackDown. Even if like the place holds 12 to 14,000 or whatever, 10,000 is still pretty respectable, and you could just tarp off the upper deck. The whole point is, I want them to draw bigger houses. I want AEW to draw bigger houses. I want Impact to get back to where they're running some house shows and their pay-per-views are doing better and this kind of stuff. I want Ring of Honor to do well. I want wrestling to do well in general. WWE is going backwards. They are going to a place where I guarantee you we're going to get a new Blood versus Millionaires Club storyline, which is probably going to be Raw versus SmackDown. We're going to get the old guard versus the new guard. It's not going to go anywhere. We're going to get a whole bunch of shit. But Heyman in charge of creative, it worked years ago. I just don't think it's going to work now. I sort of trust that Heyman could maybe do some good, but he's still older, and he's still somebody that probably should just be in the role he's in. Get some new blood. Same with Bischoff. Much as I love Bischoff, I love listening to Bischoff's podcast, 83 Weeks. Podcast clips of the whole damn thing. Even though Conrad Thompson makes me want to stick a goddamn fork in my eye. Because the guy's a goddamn idiot. I like a good portion of that, but it's like when they hired Bruce Pritchard. When WWE hired Bruce Pritchard back. Have you noticed any changes in the product, even though he's one of Vince's yes men? I haven't noticed a ton of changes. I'm not saying that it's all, again, doom and gloom, but WWE has a lot of issues, and going back to old guys whose best days are well behind them is not the way to go. So I want people to come up with ways that WWE could improve. Because there are ways to improve WWE. I might even do a video at some point about ways to improve WWE. But anyway, I'm going to end this video right here. So thank you guys very much for paying attention to this video. I hope that I recounted a whole bunch of good stuff and that I got my points across. So anyway, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I am John Ritlin. I will see you soon.